Hey, you've summoned a lesser maker. Today, we're diving into the gritty world of Mordheim. If you're looking for a unique, affordable fantasy game, Mordheim is a great place to start, with its post-apocalyptic setting and focus on brutal, close-quarters combat. Plus, it's a fantastic community-driven game with a wealth of resources and support available online. So many videos that are really great, and in this video, I'm going to point you in the right directions on where to get the rules, where I get my miniatures, and we're going to build a table's worth of terrain, and I only spent $7. You might spend a little bit more, maybe on the 15 end. It's a really cheap, affordable game to get into. Let's get started. To get the rules, you're going to want to go to broheim.com, and I like this website because everything is separated and easy to find. You're going to go down until you see core rules printable and click download. There's going to be a direct link to this in the description, so you don't have to hunt it down. This also has every warband you can pick from, and it's a really great tool to just kind of see what Mordheim is really about. If you're looking to get into Mordheim, odds are you're already in kind of a miniature realm as it is. So you could use existing D&D minis. You could go to the dollar store and get little toys. A really cheap place to get miniatures is a website called spruedude.com. And I'm not sponsored by any of these people. It's a really great site because you can buy miniatures by the sprue. You can also, once you track down a kit that you want to get, you can go on eBay and look up individual sprues for that kit. And that's a really cheap way to kind of build up your bits box. You can also mix and match different kits together and kind of make your warband a little bit more unique. To keep costs down, I scavenged this box. This has packing foam and cardboard. I'm going to be using this template that I created, and you can grab this for free without a subscription on my Patreon, link in the description. If you don't have access to this amount of cardboard, I use foam core board in every single one of my builds. It's a really great material that takes texture super well. Foam core is available at dollar stores in my area, and it probably is pretty cheap in your area as well. So the way this template works is there are 6 different building shapes, 2 different window shapes, and 2 different door shapes. And you can mix and match these to make your own type of building. I've done it this way so that you can make a unique city, and each building can kind of stand on its own. When you mix and match these, by the end of it, no building should feel alike, but they all should feel like they belong together. It's important to remember while you're cutting this stuff out, you don't have to be exact. You're making ruined buildings, and you're going to be cutting chunks out of this later. So if you mess this up, you've successfully made a ruined building. A lot of the time while I'm creating something, I kind of let the material tell me where the damage of the building goes. So if I catastrophically mess something up on one side, that's where the damage ends up. It just makes your decision making a little bit easier later. I'm starting out by drawing all the doors and the windows while everything's flat. I'm using this popsicle stick as a spacer between each floor level, and that's going to help make sure that things look a little bit consistent. I'm not going to feel like I have to cut out all these windows while I'm building. This is just going to be kind of a reference as I get into it. So I've never worked with this material. I wanted to start off with a guide and establish some rules for this set that I'm making. So I start off by cutting off some of the damage, and because I have cardboard with some double ply here, I thought it would be interesting to kind of shove in some popsicle sticks to hint that there's a substructure beneath this. And I find that whenever you kind of add these little details, it goes a long way to kind of give the illusion of a lot more going on than there actually is. To kind of hide the fact that this is cardboard, I wanted to seal off the bottom of each one of these window seals because we're going to be looking down on this terrain. So any of the cardboard faces that are facing up should be covered. It's going to make it look more like a building rather than something you've crafted. Clothespins are a nice tool in your toolbox. Popsicle sticks are great, but by themselves, things can look really two-dimensional and not all that interesting. A clothespin has a really consistent shape that kind of brings your ruined building some order in the chaos, and it also kind of makes it look like there was a bit more craftsmanship that like went into it rather than just throwing popsicle sticks at cardboard and hoping for the best. I like to use these around things that look like they need some structural integrity, like the bottoms of towers, especially around window frames and doorways. The last thing I like to get is these packs of animals. I like to cut off their heads and kind of trim them up a bit to look like architectural features like gargoyles or grotesques. This is a nice detail because it's a face and people like to look at faces. After that, I just glue them on with hot glue. I always end up with these extra bodies. What do you guys think I should use these bodies for? Because they're accumulating fast. I have a lot of these cardboard pieces left, so I wanted to make a big chain of them. My advice for this is don't make them straight. Put them in diagonals. I have a diagonal building with a diagonal tower, and none of it really makes sense, and honestly it looks better that way. You got to remember that miniatures are going to want to travel through this stuff, so make sure that there's pathways and put a miniature in there, and if you feel like there's not a way out, make a way out. I kept forgetting to cut out the windows before gluing everything together, and it was a pain in the butt. So don't make the same mistake I did. Do it in the right order. Is styrofoam and spray paint don't mix? In this case, I have foam safe styrofoam primer, but I don't recommend using it. This did not work very great, and I did find that it still melted the foam, which, why? Why does that even happen? Anyway, instead, I recommend getting Mod Podge. This is available at your dollar store. In general, I'd use about half to one of these per building I use. They're only $1.25, so depending on how much terrain you're making, you might want to get a couple of these. So the fastest way I know how to make shingles is with this self-adhesive cork. I get some pattern scissors. These ones are zigzags, so in every up zag, I'm cutting the cork halfway up the strip to separate each shingle. After that, I kind of pile these up into clumps to kind of suggest that these shingles have been falling off for a long time, and this patch is a bit more stubborn than the rest. After putting on some white glue over them, it seals in pretty good, and it's a pretty permanent bond. To paint these, I primed everything with a dark brown, and I stippled on a gray paint just to kind of get rid of all the cardboard texture and to add a bit more texture of my own. Then I painted on the timbers with a greenish brown, and I coated everything including the shingles and the gargoyles in this step. The final step was to paint the gargoyles and the shingles in a really bright green, and this will just kind of help them pop. And I didn't find any metallic paints at the dollar store while I was there that day, so these gargoyles are a really oxidized brass, kind of like the Statue of Liberty. The last thing to paint was all the styrofoam bases. A smarter person would have added that Mod Podge coat in this step, but I forgot to do that. I started with a dark forest green and ended up with a mid-tone of forest green. That way the buildings were brighter than the base and it still complemented it. Thank you to my patrons: Leroy Fetter, Caracal, Old School FRP, Burning Heart Custom Creations, James, Anders, Hanover, Grim Drunk, Treborius, Andy, Corey, Mike, Nick, The Lich's Laboratory, Cabu the Pessimist, Seb, Lori, RC3D, Jonathan, Fabio Sorso, Doom Chupacabra, Sinister Grackle, Silver Fistion, Superior J, The Enchanted Raven, What I Gotta Roll, BF1, Paul, Grombert, Frosty Spire, Arcadius Prime, Nick, Madzi Cryo, Gonzalo, and our newest patron, Adam. I really appreciate your guys' support. If you don't feel like supporting $2 a month, leave a comment and leave a like. It goes a long way to help this video reach new people. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this build in the comments. If this build hasn't earned your sub, check out one of the suggested videos at the end of the video and subscribe if you haven't. All right, have a good one.